Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I heard people say that Floyd Mayweather will go down in history as one of the best ever. And I still truly believe at this present point in time, I don't know for the future, but at this present point in time, Floyd Mayweather is the best ever. And when we say the best ever, we're not talking about guys who give you the best, most exciting fights. We're not talking about life and death battles. We're not talking about people who are the most active fighter who give you the most knockouts. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, when we talk in boxing about who's the best, we're talking about if I was to pair up against this guy, I'll beat his ass. I'll beat him. That's what we mean by the best. The best at boxing. So when Floyd Mayweather say he's the best ever, he's not talking about being the greatest of all time. Somebody else can take that. Because that is subjective. The greatest of all time has to do with many different factors. But when we're talking boxing, and they had two people in the ring, and he asked who gonna beat who, you must be able to point to me, Floyd Mayweather. That's what he's saying. I would beat that dude. Because I've proven time and time again that I have beaten the best. Because in order to be the best, you got to beat the best. Let me say it again. In order to be the best, you got to beat the best. Another thing Floyd Mayweather would say is, when the stakes get higher, I rise to the occasion. Let me say it again. When the stakes get higher, I rise to the occasion. I want you guys to keep those thoughts in your mind. To be the best, you got to beat the best. Not you got to face the best. You got to beat them. It's not good enough to just face them. You got to beat them. And the last one I just said was, when the stakes are high, I will rise to the occasion. Remember that as we go through these particular all-time greats I have in front of you. When we talk all-time greats, people say the greatest is Muhammad Ali. When people talk about the best ever, they talk about Sugar Ray Robinson. And I pulled up BoxRec for a specific reason. Because BoxRec does two things. One, it gives me the support for what I'm saying so you can see the facts in front of you. And two, BoxRec has a feature in it where you can see the last 6 fights of your opponent. And I'm going to show you that as well. Alright? So, Sugar Ray Robinson is considered the best ever by those people in the business. Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest of all time by the people in the business. And I threw in Sugar Ray Leonard because some people say that Sugar Ray Leonard is a better boxer than Floyd Mayweather. And if Floyd Mayweather was to face Sugar Ray Leonard, he would beat him. Alright? That is, Sugar Ray Leonard would beat Floyd. Not Floyd would beat Sugar Ray Leonard. That's what they say. They also talk about Thomas Hearns and stuff, but Sugar Ray Leonard was the dude of his time, of his era. Right? Alright, let's go into it. First of all, to be the best, you must beat the best. And when the stakes are high, you must be able to rise to the occasion. Let me quickly go through Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was a 3-time world champion. The first time he became world champion, it was against Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was the best of his era at the time. Okay? And if I can check it, it was 1964. I think he faced Sonny Liston the first time, which was here. And we're going to go with the feature. We're going to go into the feature where it says view this bout. And what's nice about this feature in BoxRec is you can actually look at the last 6 fights of Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston in preparation for this fight. And when you look at the last 6 fights, Sonny Liston had faced Floyd Patterson twice. Floyd Patterson was the heavyweight champion of the world. He beat him twice. He knocked his ass out twice. Okay, to prove that he would definitively beat him. You know. So that was big. He beat the best to become the best. Sonny Liston became heavyweight champion of the world. Right. And then Muhammad Ali, he hadn't beat nobody. he beat, I mean, his best opposition was Henry Cooper and our old Archie Moore, right? And we don't count Archie Moore because Archie Moore was never a heavyweight champion. He never really did anything great in the heavyweight division. He was one of the greatest light heavyweight champions ever. But the dude, I mean, he was old, okay? So we don't count Archie Moore in the equation. But when Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston, it was huge. Nobody could believe it because Sonny Liston was this knockout guy. He knocked out almost everybody, okay? So Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston the first time. They had an immediate rematch because people couldn't believe it. And he beat Sonny Liston the second time. The first time, he considered himself, he said to everybody, I am the greatest. That's when he declared he was the greatest, okay? Now, after that, Muhammad Ali defended his title successfully. He was banned from boxing because of his stance against the Vietnam War. in 1967. He lost his license. He got back his license in 1970. Had 2 warm-up fights. And then he went up against Joe Frazier. Now, let me just make it abundantly clear. Muhammad Ali, he made fun of Joe Frazier because Muhammad Ali represented the new school of boxing, the new way of thinking. This fight was big. All the chips were on the table, okay? This was a huge fight. This was a mega fight. This was a fight the whole world stopped to watch. Why? For major reasons. Muhammad Ali represented what was supposed to be the future. A world in which prejudice, racism, and even the military complex. He represented a guy where I had no issue with Vietnam. He took a stance that he was penalized for, and he was supposed to be put in prison for, and that was reversed. And he got a fight with Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier represented the sort of, I don't want to shake the boat, I don't want to rock the boat. You know what I'm saying? I will not be outspoken like Muhammad Ali was. And Joe Frazier criticized Ali for his stance on certain things. And Joe Frazier thought that, Ali needed to get a beating. He needed to get humbled because Ali would be outspoken about everything. He would say how I'd beat this guy, I would do this. So Joe Frazier represented the status quo. And at that time, the corporate America supported Joe Frazier. The white elite supported Joe Frazier. And Ali called Joe Frazier an Uncle Tom, which Joe Frazier resented. So there was bad blood between them. And Muhammad Ali said Joe Frazier was slow. He would never catch him with his left hook and stuff like that. This was a huge fight. The stakes on this fight were high. And what did Floyd Mayweather say? When the stakes are high, what happens to me? I rise to the occasion. Right? Joe Frazier showed up to that fight against Muhammad Ali. And in that fight, Joe Frazier broke Muhammad Ali's jaw, knocking him down in round 15. And he won the fight. Muhammad Ali came up short. That was a critical fight. And that fight is what got Joe Frazier into the Boxing Hall of Fame. If Ali had won this fight against Joe Frazier, Floyd Frazier would not be in the Boxing Hall of Fame today. But Joe Frazier became into the Boxing Hall of Fame, and it shook up the world because the people who backed Muhammad Ali and didn't think he would win, they actually grieved the loss that Muhammad Ali had. Because Ali was a voice for disenfranchised people, for people who wanted to change, for people who were looking for peace, pacifists. He was the voice of Islamic people. He was the voice of people who were not just Bible Belt people. He was the voice for people who didn't have a voice. And he spoke loud. I never shut up Muhammad Ali, but the point is, he lost that fight where the stakes were at their highest. The whole world was watching that fight. He did not rise to the occasion. The other thing is, Muhammad Ali was the best in the world at the time because he had not been defeated, but so was Joe Frazier. He was not defeated either. And though he got Muhammad Ali's belt, Muhammad Ali never took back his belt. To be the best, you got to beat the best. Well, guess what? Joe Frazier was the best. Both guys were in their primes. And Joe Frazier, in his best, beat Muhammad Ali against all odds. Who was at his best. No excuses. That's the fight that defined Joe Frazier and inadvertently attached his name to Muhammad Ali. So if you say Muhammad Ali is the greatest, then somebody can easily come back and say, but Joe Frazier beat him. Easy. He got to shut his mouth. You say, I beat Joe Frazier after 2 times. It don't matter. Because Joe Frazier lost his championship after that. He was never a world champion when he beat him. He was the best at the time, and you could not beat him at his best. All right, let's move on. But after that, a guy beat, Joe Frazier was out of the picture, kind of like Muhammad Ali did rematch Joe Frazier. Before that, he got beat by Ken Norton, a guy who had no experience compared to him. Look at Muhammad Ali's last set of fights, in comparison to Ken Norton. All right. So Ken Norton had faced Charlie Harris, Jack O'Halloran, Herschel Jacobs, James J. Woody, Henry Clark, and Charlie Reno. And you're like, who the hell are these people? Exactly. He didn't face the level of competition. Joe Bugner was a better fighter than most of these guys I'm seeing here. Bob Foster was the light heavyweight champion of the world. We don't count him. because he was never a heavyweight champion. And he never was really high class heavyweight. He can play with the big boys. You know, has skills though. You know, he beat Floyd Patterson, was a former heavyweight champion. Jerry Quarry was a good fighter, and George Chuvalo was a tough dude, right? Had pretty decent defense. This guy hadn't faced that kind of competition. What are you doing beating Muhammad Ali and breaking his jaw a second time? How are you going to get your jaw broke twice and you the best ever? Oh, he tough. That don't mean nothing. I mean, Floyd never got his jaw broken. He never even got dropped. So what are you talking about? He got hit. I mean, how are you going to be called the best ever and you getting beat by a dude named Ken Norton who don't got the experience you got? How do you explain that? But nonetheless, he came back and he did the unthinkable. People thought that, you know, this guy mowed through Joe Frazier and all of that, and therefore when George Foreman faced Muhammad Ali in Zaire, nobody thought Muhammad Ali was going to beat George Foreman. But to his credit, he stopped George Foreman. And let me show you the kind of competition that George Foreman did. Remember, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And you got to rise to the occasion when the stakes are high. And the stakes were high on this one. So Muhammad Ali was able, if you look at Muhammad Ali, he lost to Ken Norton. Beat Joe Frazier to put himself in position to face George Foreman. George Foreman knocked out Ken Norton, a guy Muhammad Ali struggled with twice. Okay, and he knocked out Joe Frazier, a guy Muhammad Ali struggled with 3 times. Thriller Manila, he struggled with Joe Frazier 3 times. All right, after all that talk and stuff, because Ali could not avoid a left hook for the life of him. He couldn't avoid the left hook. Once he's on the offense, he'd get hit with the left hook. And he also get hit with the jab, too. He get hit with the jab. See, you know, George Foreman just didn't know that. So when going in to face George Foreman, Muhammad Ali got into his head, was telling him all kinds of things. He's able to stop George Foreman. To be the best, you got to beat the best. That was the second time he became heavyweight champion. And then this dude comes and loses to Leon Spinks, folks. I mean, this guy, he always bounced back. One thing I liked about him, he took a loss and he bounced back. Muhammad Ali would bounce back. But you can't be the best ever. Come on now. You can't be the best ever and you get beat by a guy with 7 fights. 7 fights under his belt. No, man, come on now. The last 6 fights. Well, that's almost his entire career here. He faces nobody on the level of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali faces Ernie Schaefer's. Alright? Ken Norton. Jimmy Young. Come on, man. What you doing getting beat by a kid with 7 fights? Who is not even your size? You outweigh the dude by 20 pounds. Come on. This is just wrong. In fact, if you look at Leon Spinks' career, let me just pull up Leon Spinks' career here. This is just so ridiculous. Dude's only hallmark of his career, the only person he ever beat in his entire career was Muhammad Ali. I mean, Leon Spinks should go in the Boxing Hall of Fame for that alone. He never beat nobody else of note. Muhammad Ali, at the beginning of his career, that's it. Dude had nothing else going on. How you let that happen? How? You can't be the best ever. You cannot be the best ever and being beat by a guy named Leon Spinks. You can't be the best ever and you getting beat by a guy named Ken Norton. You can't be the best ever and when the stakes were at their highest in the prime of your career, you lose to Joe Frazier. You can't be the best ever. You can't. You can't. Maybe you can be the greatest because of your stance on things and the way how you were and the kind of fights you had. Maybe you could be that. But you can't be the best ever. Ain't no way in hell you and Floyd Mayweather being the same size, you beating Floyd Mayweather. It's not happening. It's not happening. Because mentally, you ain't ready for that. But he set the foundation, right? The trash talk, getting into people's heads. He set the foundation. Sugar Ray Robinson, considered the best ever. Sugar Ray Robinson became world champion a number of times. The first time he faced a guy he had already beaten in his career. In 1947, I believe it was, he faced Tommy Bell to get the welterweight championship of the world. Okay? It was 1946, sorry. Okay? This after Marty Servo stepped down. Now, Tommy Bell, to his credit, he had beaten some former world champions. They were over the hill, but he still had beaten them. All right? He had beaten California Jackie Wilson. Was an okay fighter. He wasn't a great. Cecil Hudson beat his ass. All right? Tommy Bell, I think he beat Marty Servo earlier on in his career. One of them. All right? He was an okay fighter. So, I mean, he fought Sugar Ray Robinson. He won that championship. He was not the best. The best was Marty Servo, who had been beaten by Sugar Ray Robinson before. Marty Servo, he vacated his championship so that he wouldn't face Sugar Ray Robinson. It's all right. It's cool. Moving on. So that's how he won his welterweight title. I must say, though, the guy that I give him respect for when he defended his championship, who turned out to be a very good fighter, was Kid Gavilan. Kid Gavilan became welterweight champion and was long-reigning welterweight champion for a while. And Kid Gavilan, he beat guys like Ike Williams. All right. Ike Williams was a good boxer. Or was it Holman Williams? Sorry, it wasn't Ike Williams. My bad. So he didn't really face anybody of note here. Sorry about that. I take it back. Whereas Henry Brim was a pretty good fighter who faced Sugar Ray Robinson. Got split decision draw. I think he got... Did he ever get stopped? I don't know if he got stopped by Sugar Ray Robinson. But he's a pretty good fighter. Nobody else of note here. So, but this was still a good fight because Kid Gavilan turned out to be welterweight champion of the world. Okay, after Sugar Ray Robinson left. Now, I'm not saying that he was the best Cuban fighter ever, and Sugar Ray Robinson beat a really good Cuban. No, I'm not saying none of that. I'm not going to go all that way out, but I'm just saying he was a good fighter. He was solid. You know, he was welterweight champion for a while. He got beat by some other people. He tried to move up to middleweight like Sugar Ray Robinson, got beat too. All right. So I just wanted to make a note about that because he was undefeated at welterweight. Not really any really solid welterweight competition, but it's all good. You know, after that, he moved up to middleweight, and he won the middleweight title, facing against Jake LaMotta. This is a guy he beat a number of times, and this time he stopped him. He stopped Jake LaMotta at middleweight. He had gotten enough size to beat Jake LaMotta. Sizably, Jake LaMotta beat him earlier on in his career as well. He got a win against him, but he never got no more wins. Now, Jake LaMotta was a bona fide. He was the best middleweight out there at the time. So, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And the only guy that had beaten him was Robert Villamain in his last 6 fights. Now, he didn't really fight nobody of note again, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Sugar Ray Robinson, he had faced a number of middleweights at that time as well. And he had also beaten the guy that beat Jake LaMotta. But nonetheless, Jake LaMotta was the best middleweight out there. To be the best, you got to beat the best, right? I ain't mad at him. That's all good. But then he goes and he loses to Randolph Turpin. And this is unforgivable. This is unforgivable. I mean, come on now. Randolph Turpin had faced, he never faced the level of competition that Sugar Ray Robinson faced. Okay? His best competition was Jean Stock and Luc Van Dam. Them guys was from Eastern Europe, and, I mean, they were nobodies. Randolph Turpin was from also Europe, but, I mean, come on now. You're talking about Spanish guys and French guys and Swedish guys. Come on now. German guys. Come on. Anyway, Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't that far off from them either. He was fighting all these European guys. I don't want to call them Euro bums, but they, you know, I mean, but he still had better competition. He fought Jake LaMotta and stuff. Why is this guy even beating Sugar Ray Robinson? This was not supposed to happen. Randy, and he had difficulty with Randy Turpin the second time around too, but at least he proved he could get back his title. So he won back the middleweight title. That was 3 times he was world champion. Okay? He would keep it, and he would beat good fighters like Bobo Olsen, who would become middleweight champion of the world later on, and Rocky Graciano. And then he moved up. And this fight was against Joey Maxim. This was his 3rd weight class. He was moving up from welterweight, went to middleweight, now he's going to light heavyweight. And he faced Joey Maxim. Now, Joey Maxim wasn't the best light heavyweight in the world. In fact, Joey Maxim was light heavyweight champion for, 2 fights? And of those 2 fights, one of them was against Sugar Ray Robinson, who was not even a light heavyweight guy. All right? So Joey Maxim, anyway, he faced him. And at the time, Joey Maxim was the light heavyweight champion. Ezra Charles just whooped his ass. and then he came back and he faced Ted Laurie. And Ted Laurie beat Ted Laurie to become the light heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, that's how that went down. So anyway, the point is, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And Sugar Ray Robinson, as much as people want to say he won all these rounds and stuff, he came up short. He lost the fight to Joey Maxim. Now, how you can be called the best ever and you losing a fight to Joey Maxim? Don't make no excuses, people. Don't make no excuses. All right? Because when it counts, when the stakes are highest, you got to rise to the occasion. And he did not rise to the occasion. He folded. So you cannot call him the best ever if you folded when the stakes are at their highest. I don't care if he was 100 years old. You have to rise to the occasion. You got to find a way to win. And he didn't do it. So he can't call himself the best if he ain't beaten the best. Alright, but we not done with his career. So he left boxing for a while, 3 years, just like Muhammad Ali. Comes back into boxing, starts back, loses to Ralph Tiger Jones, but comes back, gets a chance at the middleweight title versus Bobo Olson, who he's beaten before, and he stopped him in the second round to become middleweight championship of the world. This is the 4th time he becomes champion again. Okay, 4 times. That's crazy. Becomes middleweight champion of the world, and he rematches Bobo Olson, beats him again, just to prove that, hey, there was no fluke. I beat you. I beat you. But he comes back and loses the title to Gene Fullmer, a guy who he beat once and brilliantly set him up for that knockout, and was really nice to watch. He knocked him out, but that was the last time he ever beat Gene Fullmer. And then he went on to face Carmen Basilio, a guy coming up from welterweight, and by Gene Fullmer was the real deal. Okay, the real deal. This dude was dominant as a middleweight champion, by the way. So that was a good win against Gene Fullmer. To beat the best, you got to be the best. He really proved that he was the best, at least for a moment, because Gene Fullmer came back and took back his title. But that's another story for another day. Carmen Basilio comes up from welterweight, where he had been fighting against Johnny Saxon, or John Saxon. I can't remember which one it is. John Saxon, there you go. Some really good welterweight champions. Johnny Saxon was a welterweight champion and so on. They had a lot of stuff going on. Tony DeMarco was a good fighter as well. Stepped up to middleweight with Harold Jones, and then he faced Sugar Ray Robinson and beat him. Now, that showed how good Carmen Basilio was, even though I thought his defense was kind of holy. He was a very engaging fighter. He was the fighter of the year, and a welterweight comes and beats him. Now, I mean, however you want to take that. It says a lot more about Carmen Basilio than it does about Sugar Ray Robinson. Carmen Basilio did what Sugar Ray Robinson was supposed to do against Joey Maxim. Alright? Carmen Basilio jumps all the way up from welterweight, whoops Sugar Ray Robinson's butt. Something Sugar Ray Robinson should have done to Joey Maxim, but he fell short. Alright? Sugar Ray Robinson lets a smaller dude beat him up, basically. So, yeah. You can't be the best ever and you letting a smaller guy beat you. You can't be the best ever. You just can't. You can't. He comes back and avenges his loss. Don't get me wrong. It was a brutal fight as well. They went 15 rounds. And all that talk about, Sugar Ray Robinson had a brutal knockout ratio and knockout. Carmen Basilio was hanging with him. And he was a smaller dude. Smaller dude hanging with you. That says so much, boy. It says a lot, okay? That's all I got to say. You can't be the best ever. And a smaller guy is beating you up. You just can't be. Can't be. Alright? Alright, so, and then afterwards he had Paul Pender and all these other guys that beat him. But Paul Pender didn't really beat him. I thought Sugar Ray Robinson beat him twice. But, he was they favored Paul Pender. He was the younger guy and whatever. And he didn't get knocked out. So it is what it is. Alright? So, my point anyway is Sugar Ray Robinson. What I love, 5-time world champion, 4 times middleweight world champion, undefeated as a welterweight world champion. But man, how could you get beat by a little guy like Carmen Basilio? How could you be beat by Randy Turpin? That dude didn't belong in the ring with you. How are you having such a horrible time with that? How you can call yourself the best ever and you can't beat Joey Maxim? You can't make that claim, ladies and gentlemen. Sugar Ray Leonard, talking the best ever. How you gonna go lose to these other guys but you gonna beat Floyd Mayweather? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Where's the logic there? You know, I'm just saying. Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard became welterweight world champion when he beat Wilfredo Benitez. Wilfredo Benitez was an excellent boxer, defensive boxer. Sugar Ray Leonard stopped him in the 15th round. All kudos to Sugar Ray Leonard on that. 2 fights later, he loses to Roberto Duran, a plodding fighter, not known for quick footwork, not known for an outside game. He had an inside game, great inside defense. Outside, he could get tagged. He had a hell of a chin, but he could get tagged, and tagged bad. Why you go fighting Roberto Duran's fight? To show what? What you trying to prove? So Roberto Duran got in Sugar Ray Leonard's head, and the fight that mattered, the fight that counted in his career, he let Roberto Duran become a part of his career. Anytime anybody says, well, Sugar Ray Leonard was the greatest of his career, but Roberto Duran beat him. I mean, you can't escape that. He could have beat Roberto Duran twice. They could always say, oh, Duran wasn't in his prime then, or he was out of shape. They can have excuses galore because you let Roberto Duran beat you. Floyd Mayweather's angry about that. He came up to Sugar Ray Leonard and said, how you could let Roberto Duran beat you? This guy wasn't supposed to beat you. He wasn't supposed to beat you. Just saying, you can't be the best ever. You can't say you could beat Floyd Mayweather and you got Roberto Duran beating you. How you gonna beat Floyd and Roberto Duran beating you? How you gonna beat him? You gonna beat Floyd with what? You know Floyd gonna get to the inside. Because he knows once he's fighting you on the inside, he gonna win the fight. How you gonna let Roberto Duran beat you? And you want to be called the best ever? Or you better than Floyd Mayweather? Floyd Mayweather never let a guy like Roberto Duran beat him. Those guys have a certain range they can fight at. They have to fight at a certain range. How are you going to let these guys get their preferred range? Why would you fight them at their preferred range? Can't be the best ever. He ain't better than Floyd. He beat, though, his next, he beat Thomas the Hitman Hearns. It was hell of a good fight. Credit to him. But again, when you look at Thomas Hearns, look at the people Thomas Hearns faced in his last 6 fights. Pipino Cuevas stands out, but that's it. Look at Leonard's last 6 fights. Yeah, he lost to Duran, but he faced Benitez. Rematched Duran. Beat a world champion in Kalule. See the vast difference? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So, he beat Thomas Hearns. Alright? When you look at Duran, before he beat him, look at the level of competition Duran was facing. Palomino. He beat Palomino. That's a tough fighter. Okay, that's about it. And with Leonard, he beat Benitez, right? Benitez, and he had Palomino over here. So that was what it is. Palomino thought he won the fight, but you didn't win the fight, Palomino. I'm sorry, buddy. Not at all. So, I'm just saying. But that's not all. I mean, Leonard went on to do some remarkable things. He beat Marvin Hagler at welterweight. All right. He beat Ayub Kalule at super welterweight. All right. Kalule wasn't the best super welterweight in the world. You know. But he beat him. Hearns was the best welterweight you could find in the world at the time. Marvin Hagler was the best middleweight in the world at the time. So he rose to the occasion. He fought those guys. Right? Fought Donnie Lalonde. He wasn't the best light heavyweight in the world, but he beat Donnie Lalonde. At a catchweight, but nonetheless, he beat Donnie Lalonde. You know what I'm saying? Then he fought Thomas Hearns again to a draw. All these things are exceptional. Then he went back down and he fought the best super welterweight in the world at the time, Terry Norris, and he got beat bad and dropped and all kinds of crazy things like that. Right? And then he went back and fought Hector Camacho and got beat. But he was old by then, so I'll give him a pass on Hector Camacho. I may even give him a pass on Terry Norris, but I can't give him a pass on Roberto Duran. I just can't. You in your prime and everything. You a welterweight champion, and you still let this guy beat you. Come on, man. Smaller guy at that. Come on, man. So we go to Floyd Mayweather. We know he didn't lose to nobody. But let's just go with when the stakes were the highest. Let's just get to that point one time. Because we know Floyd went through multiple divisions. Manny Pacquiao. This was the fight everybody said, this is the guy who they called his Joe Frazier. This is the guy that was supposed to beat him, right? Right? Supposed to beat him. Manny Pacquiao had 2 losses in 2012. Marquez and Bradley. They beat him, right? Came back, beat Timothy Bradley, avenged his loss. All right? You can go and drop Tris Algieri 6 times. Right, fine. This was the guy who was supposed to beat Floyd Mayweather. And when the occasion came, he fought him smart and he beat him. Case closed. When the chips were highest, Floyd Mayweather beat him. To be the best, you got to beat the best, right? We can go through all the people who were the best, right? Let's go through the people who were the best. So we look at Saul Canelo Alvarez, was the best super welterweight in the world at the time. We all know he's middleweight linear champion right now. He beat him. All right? Miguel Cotto was the best super welterweight in the world at the time. Floyd beat him. All right? Shane Mosley was the best welterweight in the world at the time. Floyd beat him. To be the best, you got to be the best, right? Okay. All right, let's keep it moving. Carlos Baldomir, he was the lineal champion. He was the best welterweight in the world. Floyd beat him. All right? I'm not even mentioning Zab Judah and all them other guys, right? Arturo Gatti was not the best lightweight in the world, so we'll skip that. Jose Luis Castillo was the best lightweight in the world. Floyd beat him. They say he didn't beat him. He go back and beat him again to prove his point. All right? Diego Corrales was the best super featherweight in the world. Floyd beat him. Gennaro Hernandez was the best super featherweight in the world. He was the man at the division. Floyd beat him. To be the best, you got to beat the best. When the stakes are highest, you got to rise to the occasion. Floyd proved that again and again and again. So how is he arrogant? How is he out of his place to say that he is the best ever? His record proves that he's the best ever. Ain't nobody beat him when the stakes were at their highest. Ray Leonard slipped up. He let Duran beat him when the stakes were the highest. Muhammad Ali slipped up. He let Joe Frazier beat him when the stakes were the highest. Sugar Ray Robinson, the stakes weren't even the highest, and he had Randy Turpin beating him. When the stakes were highest, where Joey Maxson beat him. A smaller guy than him, Basilio, beat him. How you going to let these people beat you and then you going to talk about you the best ever? Or people going to say you the best ever? You can't be the best ever and you getting beat by these people. You can't. Now, I understand if Gene Fullmer beats you and you come back and beat Gene Fullmer, I can understand that. But you're not supposed to let Basilio beat you. You ain't supposed to let Basilio beat you, man. Carmen Basilio. How you gonna let Carmen Basilio, a welterweight, come up in middleweight and embarrass you like that? You get beat by Carmen Basilio? Come on now. Some of those titles where you get 4-time middleweight champion sound good, but you ain't supposed to be 4-time middleweight champion. You're just supposed to be middleweight champion. You're supposed to have it multiple times unless you left and then you had to come back and get it. So it sounds good, but really, it ain't supposed to happen. That wasn't supposed to happen. I can understand you losing to Gene Fullmer. Hardly anybody lost to Gene Fullmer. Carmen Basilio became middleweight champion, and then that was it. He can become it no more. Because real middleweights dispose of this dude. Because he got hit. He got hit. Alright? I can understand you losing to Bobo Olsen. You never did. But I can understand it if you were to. You know, because the guy's he's proven middleweight. You know, can't understand with Joey Maxson, because Joey Maxson, he just made a name off of you. Other than that, he never really beat nobody. So Joey Maxson, I mean, what did he beat Archie Moore once? Possibly. You know, he in the Hall of Fame because of you. You know what I'm saying? Randolph Turpin, he in the Hall of Fame because of you. He ain't beat nobody else. This is not supposed to happen. People are not supposed to make their names off of you. If you the best ever. So no, he ain't the best ever. Muhammad Ali is not the best ever. You can't be having a guy with 7 fights beating you. That's just terrible. You can't be the best ever and being beat by a guy with 7 fights. That's a no-no. And when the chips were on the table, you got beat by Joe Frazier. Ray Leonard, with the chips were on the table, you got beat by Roberto Duran, a dude who's slow and plotting, an inside fighter. You ain't supposed to be beat by that dude. Alright? So that's why them guys eliminate themselves from being the best ever. Okay? You can't talk the best ever with them guys because they don't deserve to be talked about as the best ever. Floyd Mayweather's could say he's the best ever because he got the stuff to back it up. When I listen to guys like Lennox Lewis talk about, I'm the best ever. Yeah, but you got knocked out by two guys you shouldn't have been knocked out by. One's Mike Tyson's sparring partner, and the other guy, he became heavyweight champion. That was it. He never became heavyweight champion again, and he did it at your expense. You can't be the best ever and you getting knocked out by dudes you're supposed to smoke. You know what I'm saying? You can't be the best ever. Because we don't know if you're going to be on your A game or your B game. And even if you're on your A or B game, we don't know how your defense is going to be. You're not supposed to get knocked out by guys that are not supposed to knock you out. You're getting knocked out? Vladimir Klitschko, oh, he the best ever because of that. Let's shut him out. Shut him out. Vladimir Klitschko can't be the best ever. You getting knocked out by dudes who never been heavyweight champion of the world. You know what I'm saying? You can't, Vitaly Klitschko maybe, but not you, not Vladimir. You punch drunk, you getting knocked out, you tiring out yourself punching the guy. Come on now, can't be the best ever. That see, people talk about the greatest, and you want to talk about greatest or all-time greatest. That's a different story. But you got to be disciplined as a boxer. You got to be ready for every single fight you have. And Klitschko falls short of the great. He got punched drunk. He got knocked out by guys. Never became world champion. Became world champion at his expense. You can't be the best ever like that. Can't be. You ain't ready for everybody. You taking your opponents for granted or something. So, like I said, and I keep on saying, when you're talking boxing, you got to talk about this guy right here. Alright? He the best ever. And until somebody else comes and does better than he has done, he's the best ever. Okay, so yeah, see his last two fights, they were anticlimactic. No doubt about it. If you're a boxing person, there were no challenges for him. Alright? Even though he's old and everything, there were no challenges for him. I'll give you that. But don't tell me that this dude didn't fight the very best. And when he did, he stepped up to the occasion and he rose to the occasion to deal with those people. You can talk about exciting fights. You can talk about how aggressive and how much offense a fighter may have had. And you can talk about how Manny Pacquiao was so exciting and all of that, but he got his ass beat by Floyd. He got beat. And when we talk about the best ever, we're talking about if I match this guy up with this guy, who will win? And more than likely, Floyd would win all of those fights because he proved that he would win all those fights under all conditions. With the crowd booing against him. With the crowd going against him. He would win. He'd find a way to win. He's a winner. And that's what you guys don't get. So when we talk about the best ever, don't ever get it in your thick skull that we're talking about exciting fights, knockouts, who got killer instinct, and all that bullshit. We're talking about who would win the fight. At the end of the day, the best ever would win the fight. He'd get it done. And you cannot say that for all of those other guys I just mentioned. Because they came up short against guys they were not supposed to come up short against. You guys have a great one.